So we are continuing our study from Romans chapter 4. We read from verses 16. Romans chapter 4, beginning from verse 16 to the end of the chapter.
Verse 16. Therefore, it is of faith that it might be according to grace, so that the promise might be sure to all the seed, not only to those who are of the law, but also to those who are of the faith of Abraham, who is the father of all, as it is written, I have made you a father of many nations, in the presence of him whom he believed, God who gives life to the dead, and calls those things which do not exist as though they did.
Who is contrary to our belief that he became the father of many nations by the word of God, and not being weak in faith, did not consider common bodies already dead, since you are about 100 years old, and the dead was Sarah. So unbelief made him bear unto the promise of God, and he was strong in his faith, and he gave glory to God.
దేవుని మహిమపరచి ఆయన వాగ్దానం చేసిన దాన్ని నెరవేర్చడం సమర్థుడని గుడిగా విశ్వసించి విశ్వాసము వలన బలము నొందెను.
Therefore his faith was counted to him as righteousness, and the words which was counted to him were not written for his sake alone, but for ours also. He will be counted to us who believe in him who raised from the dead, Jesus our Lord. 25.
Who was delivered for our offenses and was raised again for our justification.
Romans, we saw in the first 8 chapters, gives a foundation of the gospel of God. Now, this term gospel of God, good news, is there in the very first verse of this book. Gospel of God, the good news of God. Now, as we were looking, the first 18 verses of the chapter 1 talks about the introduction of Paul and why he is writing this. Right? From chapter 1:18 to chapter 3:20, we see the bad news. And what is the bad news? The bad news is that all the Jews, the Norwegians, and everyone, right? All have sinned and come from the glory of God. But then after that, after telling what the bad news is, he's not stopping there, he's telling about the good news. Right? So for chapter 3 verse 21 to chapter 5 verse 20, we see the good news. What is the good news? The good news is that you can be justified apart from your works, but by faith alone. By faith. It's a beautiful illustration. Okay, so chapter 3 verse 21 to 31, the last 10 verses of the third chapter, it describes about, gives a description, a doctrine of justification. How a man can be justified apart from the law, apart from the works, right? Only by faith. In chapter 4, we were discussing that Paul is bringing about two people, but mainly on Abraham. Abraham and David, stalwarts from the Old Testament, to illustrate this point. What is the illustration? Even in the Old Testament, before Jesus was ever born, people were justified only in one way. What is that? So he's telling, or he's demonstrating the fact, or he's illustrating the fact that in the life of Abraham, he was made right with God. Righteous means right with God. Only on the basis of his faith, not on the basis of his. So in chapter 4, first 6 verses, he tells that Abraham was justified not by works, not by works, but by faith. And the next 10 verses, he talks about Abraham was justified by grace and not by law, not by keeping the law, right? Because there is this objection from the Jews that then what about the law? Then why did God give the law? Then why did it have the 613 laws in the Old Testament? Why we had to keep all the ceremonial laws? Why God gave the moral laws? Why God gave the laws concerning the temple and so on? So always answer that question, right? We come to the last part. That justification is not by human power, but by divine power. Right? A demonstration that no amount of human strength can make you right with God. So, in these few verses that we just read, Apostle Paul is talking about the faith of Abraham. Now, what was special about the faith of Abraham? Why did he take Abraham as an example? Right? When you bring somebody as example, what do we expect? Ezra as an example means good kabaddi player. Then what do we expect from Ezra? Yeah? That means I expect all the good qualities. How that well he plays kabaddi and how he knows all the tricks, how he can come out when someone catches him, and all the things about kabaddi he knows, right? That's why I bring you as an example. So when Paul brings Abraham as an example of faith, that means his faith was exemplary. Faith was something that we could follow. That is the reason why he is talking about the faith of Abraham. So in these few verses, there are 7 things which are told very specific about the faith of Abraham. Okay? Now these 7 things Paul brings about from the Old Testament. You see, I told you about the history of Abraham. What was his name? First name? Abraham. And what is the meaning? Yeah, exalted father, or the father of many, we could also translate. Now think about that. Okay? Father of? Sorry? Abraham is the father of many nations. The nation is coming out. Father, the exalted father. Now, when someone is named father, in India we have all different kinds of names, but some names are meaningful, like Sandosh. Sandosh, what is the meaning of Sandosh?
Happiness.
Oh, happiness, yes. And if that man is all the time sad? Yes, sir? Like your friend Sandosh? No, he is not all sad all the time. But I'm just saying, if a man is called Sandosh, but he is all the time sad, people will make your name is Sandosh. Why don't you like to say, right? So, his name was father. And was he a father? Not a father at all. So people used to make fun of it. Right? Your name is father. Oh, very nice. Exalted father. How many children do you have? And then what is the answer? So every time when people meet him, hi, Abraham, oh nice, father, how many children? No. So you used to, read. So in his life, if you look, all his life was not going well. At age 75, God called him and God promised him. What was the promise? Make you a great nation. Right? Great nation at a time when he had nothing. He had no shame. But in the process, if you see, there were many failures in the life of Abraham. Right? God called him to the land flowing to the land, but when there was a famine, he just escaped from that land. Right? When God promised him a child of promise, what did he do? He took the shortcut. Everyone was calling him father, father. Now I have to be a father. So, he took the shortcut. What was the shortcut? He went to father, he at least listened to His wife is not saying, everybody is calling the father. Come on. God has also given you promise. Now let us try to bring about a child in your own way. This is now 4,000 years. Still the trouble is not over. Right? Because of that. Because she took a shortcut. It is said about this in Galatians chapter 4 that Ismail was a child of the flesh. Right? That means he thought that he can help God. He can bring this promise to reality by his effort. Right? God said, no. Right? When he was 86 years old, he made this mistake. Right? And then, we know 13 years after that, God came to him and said, in between he said, oh, I don't have child. Ishmael, we put it before you, that's good enough for me. What did God say? No. That is a child of your flesh. You brought about the child in your own will and in your own effort. The child of the promise is the child that I will do. Right? So there is this two streams in each one of us. Right? Our desire to fulfill God's promises in our flesh. And then there is another stream which is receiving what God has promised through faith and patience. Right? These two streams are there today. In today's world also you can see that. Trying to achieve or get right with God or get the promises of God by our own fleshly effort. And then on the other side, waiting patiently for God's promise to be fulfilled in one's life. This is very important. Okay. Now in verse 16 it says, this is therefore it is of faith that it might be by grace to the end the promise might be sure to all the seed, not to that only which is of the law, but to that also which is of the faith of Abraham, which the father of us all. What is it saying? It's saying this faith is not only for those people who are in the law, that is not only for Jews, but for all those who believe in the same God. Just as Abraham believed in God in uncircumcision, that means before he was circumcised, he believed in God. This faith could all this should be also be accessible to us today. Then he goes on to say that the faith that Abraham had, it had some very different characteristics. First of all, he says in verse 17, as it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations before him whom he believed, even God, who quickened the dead and calls those things which be not as though they were there. Now, his faith was first observant faith. What is observant faith? That means he knew whom he believed. Right? Just today I saw a clip. One man, low caste man, sizzling a rock. It's a picture of a low caste man sizzling a rock. And he is in that, he is written caption. Yesterday you were a rock. Today you are a God. Talking to the stone. Yesterday you were a rock. Today you are a God. Tomorrow you are going to be kept in a temple, in a high caste temple. Day after tomorrow I cannot see you. So today I say goodbye to you. He said, the low caste man is chiseling this rock. It was a rock and he made it to a god. Now he is going to be kept in a high caste temple, and then this man cannot see that god anymore. Because low caste people are not allowed to go. This is the condition of the God whom people believe in. Now what about him? He is observing that his God had two qualities. He's saying in this verse. What are those two qualities? Now when God told Abraham that you will have a child, he has not seen the child. There is no child, right? His wife was barren. He was important, he is old, and there is no child, nothing will be seen. But he believed in a God. What did that we read there? Who calls those things which be not as though they were. There was no light, and God said, let there be light. There was no grass, and God said, let there be grass. There were no animals, God said, let there be animals. There was no sun, God said, let there be sun. So that means he believed in a God who is a creator. Right? He understood God as a God who could create things out of nothing. We create things out of something, right? But God creates things out of nothing. So he believed in a God of creation. So second thing, he observed that this God is able to bring life to the dead. Correct? Quickens the dead. That means he believed in a God who could raise the dead. Now you look at the time when Isaac was born, God asked him to sacrifice his son. Right? And there he believed that even though I killed the son, the blood, and I burned him, and out of the ashes God is able to bring back. So he believed these two aspects of God, that God is a creator and God is the one who could bring dead people back to life. Which God can do that, Venkatesh? Only the living God, right? Only the true God. Only the real God can create. So this is one of the important tests of who is God, right? Nobody can just come and say that I am God, right? God says in the book of Isaiah, let them say what happened in the past. Let them say what will happen in the future. Let them create like I do. Then they can say that. So, two important aspects of God. This is what I said, no? You can believe in a vehicle that it will take you to Calicut. But what is the use of believing in a vehicle with no engine? Whole day you can believe. But what is the use? Any use? No. Does that belief will save you? No. If you are not knowing the facts about it, if you don't know, so it is not about your faith about a God. It is important that the God in whom you believe is it true? Is it real? Can this God create? Can this God bring dead people back to life? That's the question you need to answer. So that Abraham understood this important fact that God is a God of creation. He can create things out of nothing, and God who can bring dead people back to life. That he saw in the case of this hitherto unknown son. At age 75, God promised a son, but he was able to see the son. Why? Because it doesn't matter about me, it's about the promises God can create. The second, I kill the son, doesn't matter, God can kill the son. The first aspect of his faith, it is not observant faith. Alright, it observes, it notices. Right? Faith comes by the hearing of the word of God. That means the Old Testament and all is written about God, many things about God, so that you will hear and you will know what kind of God it is. I'll give you an example. In the second chapter of Joshua, you read about spies going on to spy, right? And these spies came to Jericho, and they came into this lady's house, Rahab. And what does this woman say about the God of Israel? We heard. Can we quickly take that question? In Joshua chapter 2. Joshua chapter 2 and verse 10-11.
So we have heard that the Lord cried unto after the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt. You got into the two people and Haren who are on the other side of the Jordan. Not I go, when you utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage any more because of you. The Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth beneath.
God is a God on heaven above. God is a God on heaven above and earth beneath. This observing. See? Many people in that Jericho saw what this happened, but they did not really observe or did they recognize this important fact. What is the important fact this lady recognized? This God is a God of heaven and earth. That means Jericho people might have worshipped many gods, right? They were very familiar with their own local gods. But when she heard that these things happened, the Israelites could not, they were coming with families, right? Akhil, have you ever heard army going with family? General and his wife and children. Yes? And this soldier's wife and children. What happened? Never go to fight like that. But these people, they knew that they came with their animals also. Goats and oxen. Makes it all the more difficult for fighting, right? And this lady observed that, okay, these people came like that, all family, everything, all their things, animals and oxen and everything, and still they were able to beat the enemy. How? And they observed. So, this is not about them. It is their God. It is their God who helped them in winning this battle. Therefore, what did she do? I know now what? That this God is a true God. This God is a God of heaven. This is what we call observing faith. Right, friends? When you live every day, God wants us to be observant. What is happening around us? Right? What is God working? How is He working? Is this man's hand or God's hand? In my life, what is happening? Is this God's intervention or man's intervention? And realize that I truly know that this is a true God. Because no man can do this. Right? No human being can achieve this. Only God can. Right? Abraham understood this in his father. But there were people who lived. Abraham was under nothing of Noah some shame. We know that. Shame and Abraham, they lived at the same time. You must known about what God did through the life of Noah. This man made a boat, an ark, for 120 years, and he believed God without ever seeing a rain. People made fun of him. Old man, he's making a boat. So in the history of the world, rain never came, and he says rain will come and flood this place. This is far away from the sea, right? There is no rain now. People would have made fun of him, but what did Noah do? Noah said, I will not stop working. I will keep on working. 1 year we can understand. But keep on working for so many years. Abraham said, this God is wonderful. And you know what happened? Just like God said, rain came. So that means this God is a dependable God. This God could be believed. Right? And there from history, he was observant. He understood. When he heard the things of God, he kept it in his mind. Right? That this God is an amazing God. When the angel came to Mary, and said, you're going to have a baby. Mary said, how? I'm unmarried, I never know a man, and how can I have a baby? But then, what the angel said? The Holy Spirit will come upon you. And what is being decorated there is called right? That means God does not need a human help to bring a baby. Right? So that means Mary believed that this God is a God of creation. He is not necessarily impressed with science. Right? Medical science. Without the help of medical science, without the help of fertility, what is it called? Fertility techniques and all that, God is able to produce. So she believed in a God of creation. What did she say in the end? I'm a handmaid of the Lord. Let it happen to me just like that means, sir, I know that God can create. I don't know the mechanics of it. How and what and all I don't know. But I know that God is a God of creation and I believe. So, in faith, it is an important thing to realize that who your God is. What can He do? Realize that He is a God of creation, He is a God of resurrection. So, when your body is wasting away, you need not lose hope. Why? It doesn't matter. I'll get a new body. Why? Because I believe in a God of resurrection. He is able to bring back dead people back to life. two terms are used in terms of death in the Bible. One is sleeping, right? In 1 Corinthians chapter 4, it says, I want you to know about those who are asleep. That means sleeping. When you go to sleep in the night, you are not very much worried. Why? You will not cry. Oh, we are going to sleep. So why? Why? Because you when you wake up in the morning, you're okay. Huh? That means if a child is going to sleep, you don't need to cry tomorrow, right? So that means in the Bible, death is always explained as sleep. That means it's a temporary thing. That means God is able to say, come on, Nagaraj, then Nagaraj will come back. Right? That means God is able to bring back. And second term used in the Bible is sowing. Sowing means to throw a seed. Agricultural people. When you throw a seed, you won't cry. Why? You want to see I'm losing? No. Why? It doesn't matter. If I throw one seed, 100 seeds will come out of this, right? So that means that death is also said as sowing. That means God is one day going to bring back his death. So therefore, we believe in a God of resurrection. That is why if you go into a believer's house where a death has happened, we might be crying, but we are not without hope. Why? Because his body is sleeping. This is sown here. His body will be after some time, in a few hours, it will be put in the thing, it will be sown, and one day God will raise this up. It is a new body. Just like the old seed is gone, but now we have fresh new things coming up. Our old human body is gone. That new body is gone. That is very important. If God wants us to be observant regarding our faith. Second thing about our faith. Yes. Verse 18. Who against hope believed in hope, that he might become the father of many nations. According to that which was spoken, so shall thy seed be. Now, when a patient is admitted in a hospital, and every day his condition is deteriorating, what will the doctor say? Doctor say no hope, right? Usually, when do we first when you take the patient to the hospital, you put this, they put that, then give injection. They will not say anything about God or anything. But last, when all the hope is gone, what they will say? Hey, now you take home and why they didn't say in the beginning?
What is impossible for man?
They want money. First of all, they want to take all. They want all the money. They want to extract, and finally, when they cannot do anything, they will say, "Now God, God is that means no hope for you. You can do your friend." Here he says, humanly speaking, was there any hope? Okay, when he was 75, there was little chance. Still chance was not there. Even when God told him about that you will have children at 75, he will say, "Arey, 75, what?" But as you go 5 years down, hope is increasing or decreasing? Decreasing. 80, still going down. 85, 90, 100, he says, it was as good as dead. Right? That means there is no human hope. There is no human hope in this case, but he hoped. This is a kind of an oxymoron, kind of saying that it's a deafening silence and all that. No? That means humanly no hope, yet he had hope. What was the hope? This is the hope that can see beyond human things. This is the second aspect about faith. You are able to see things which cannot be seen with human eyes. Right? By human eyes, he was hopeless. In his case, was hopeless. That means there is no chance for him to have a baby. There is no chance for this promise to be fulfilled. Yet, he had a hope. Bible says it is an anchor of your soul. Right? Now, in the when the ships are there in the deep sea, in the olden times they have this big anchor going down into the sea and holding up, right? right? That anchor which holds you in times of storm, which will make you steady. So he had no human hope, but he had this heavenly hope that which goes beyond any belief. So what the scripture says is that he who against hope believed in hope, that he might become the father of many nations. So because God said, so this faith is hopeful. Why it is hopeful? Because God said so. Because God is the God of creation, and He will not tell right what He said. He will not have to scratch his head. When I was small, when we were small, children were small, I used to tell them, children will ask me sometimes, "Daddy, can you go for a ride today?" And I, of course, my enthusiasm say, yeah, we can. But some job will come, somebody will come, some visitors will come, and we mess up the whole thing, and finally we could not go, and they will come and say, "Daddy, you lied." But we scratch our head and say, "Sorry, that's the whole thing." God never had to say that. Why? When He said something will happen, He had the power, and He had the authority, and He had the will. Yes. So that means you can hope against hope. He did not be like me, who want to scratch his head in the evening, right? He can say, when He says something, it will happen. That means it will come to pass. So he hoped against hope. Third thing about his faith is verse 20. He staggered not at the promise of God through unbelief. What is staggering? Staggering is like when you get drunk, either or either. So when you go staggering, that means you go to one side, after some time you go to the other side. Then after you go to this side, it's staggering. So that means he did not sometimes very strong, but sometimes decide. He did not stagger. He did not vacillate. That means he did not go from one side to another. So that means his eyes were not upon things on earth. He did not stagger. His faith was strong. Right? He did not stagger in his faith. I had the promise of God through unbelief, but was strong in faith. It was strong in faith. Now, what do you mean by being strong in faith? I told you. The faith is mainly depending upon the object of faith. Now, when you look to ourselves, right? When you look to ourselves, our faith weakens. Now, there are three things which will make your faith weak. As we see in the Bible. When you know who God is, you know that God cannot lie, you know that God will fulfill His promise, but oftentimes Satan brings these things to weaken our faith. One is fear. He will bring fear into our heart, and He will be there. We know about the thing about the disciples crossing the sea. Jesus said, "We'll go to the other side." When the storm came, they were fearful, and Jesus was sleeping and said, "Woke up. Woke him up and said, are you not concerned? Why are you sleeping? Are you not concerned that we are dying?" They were angry. He said, "What did I tell? Let's go to the other side." I didn't say let's go to the bottom of the sea. I said let's go to the other side. That means I told you, right? So fear is something. Fear is something that pulls us down, right? I told you that we'll go to the other side. That means when I said I'll not lie, right? Let us go to the other side. Then I'll take you. Why do you fear? Second thing that makes us faith weak is doubt. Very big. Jesus told Jesus was walking on the water. Peter said, "Oh, Jesus walking, I also want to walk." Then he said, okay, can I come? Come. He started walking. What happened? He was a very good old man. He said, why did you like this? I told you. Because I know that it is against science to walk on water. I know that maybe nobody must have walked on water. You wanted to come, right? You believe that I could walk on water, right? You saw me walking on water. So why did you come? Right? Other people, other disciples, hey, teacher, look at the wave. There is big wave coming up. And he looked, oh, really? Big wave. He doubted, right? So these are some of the things. We got hundreds of promises from God, but many times doubt comes into our head and he says, oh, ye of the good faith. Third thing that weakens our faith is worry. What to eat, what to drink, again tomorrow when something happens, what will happen? Some sickness comes, I lose my job, I don't get a job, right? I have this trouble, I have that trouble. Worry. Jesus talks about in chapter 6 of Matthew. He says, oh, ye of the good faith. If God knows how to take care of the lily, right? A lily need not go to beauty parlor, right? Why? No need to go to beauty parlor. No need to apply lipstick. No need to comb the hair. Lily is beautiful. If God knows how to beautify, right? How to make a lily beautiful. God knows how to take care of a crow. Crow does not have a fridge, right? Crow does not have a deep freezer. Crow does not have a godown. Nothing. Still, crow lives. I take care of it. Then why are you guys worried? Aren't you much better than them? And oh, ye of faith. So these three things we must remember all the time. That doubt, right, fear, and worry. These three very strong weapons of devil which makes everything strong. I believe Abraham had all this. He had fears, he had doubts, but in between all that, he did not stagger. So, okay, I messed up a little bit, but what you promised, it will happen. So you made strong in faith. So the first thing about this faith is, ultimately, he gave glory to him. Oh, it is because of my faith I stood. What did you read there in the same verse? This is very wonderful, right? In the midst of some great thing that happened in his life, he did not say, you know who I am? I'm the father of many nations. Glory to God. Many times what happens is when God does some wonderful work to us, but God reaches many people. So you know how he came to the Lord? Through me, no? Without me, he could not have done it. Whoever heard of somebody stopping the exam because the pen stopped working. Did you stop the exam, brother? No. Nobody will stop the exam. Sorry, my pen stopped working, I'm stopping the exam. No, what did you do? Throw the pen away, borrow somebody else's pen, right? Finish the exam, right? Yeah. Always remember that we are channels only. Channels of God's blessing. Joseph had an amazing opportunity to take advantage of this king. Joseph was called into Pharaoh's palace. Pharaoh said, he quickly shaved and put on good dress and came and stood before this Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, I am in a bit of trouble. I heard that when you hear a dream, you are able to interpret the dream. What we would have said, yeah. Sure. Hey, I am the man. I am the man for the occasion. You know what Joseph said? God will give Pharaoh look at that. He did not take credit about the talents or the ability that God has given him. He said, not me, sir. God. It is not I. God, giving glory to God. It is not about my ability that I stood. It is not by my ability that I stood in faith. It was God who helped me. This is absolutely important. All glory should go to whom? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Satan, Nebuchadnezzar threatened that you're going to be thrown into the fire. One more chance I will give you. And what did they say? They are careful to answer this matter. Our God, he is bringing their God in here now. Okay? So before this great king, he is bringing their God and say, our God is able to deliver us from your hands. And even if he doesn't, we still may not. Then finally, when everything is over, you know what did Nebuchadnezzar say? Your God is your God is the most, and who got the glory? You. He didn't say, oh, you guys are spectacular. No. He said about that God. This is how bringing glory comes. Your faith should not focus things on yourself. Your faith should focus on Him and bringing and giving glory to God. Apostle Paul, he was on that voyage to Rome, and the great storm came. You read that in Acts, right? And everything was all, they lost all hope and everything. And Paul was just a prisoner. He stood on the deck. And they said, calm down, everyone. Calm down. Why calm down? Your captain is the boss. But he's telling the captain is all lost hope and in big trouble. And he's standing on the deck. This prisoner, poor man, weak man, a prisoner, he's saying, calm down. For last night, my God told me, he sent his angel, and they said, nothing will happen to us. We are all go to God. So that means, who did the glory God? Always focusing upon giving glory to God. So that is the fourth thing. That he gave glory to God. And then what other things you see about this faith? He recognized his weakness, right? In verse 19. Can you read verse 19?
Being not weak in faith, he considered not his own body as that when he was about 100 years old, neither at the badness of Sarah's womb.
So, he realized the fact that how many years old now he is? 100 years. He did not say, oh, I'm 100 years old, but I'm going to take some vitamin D from today onwards. Why? I'm going to enroll in the best gym so that I build some muscle. Right? I will not run, I'm going to run for 3 kilometers. So that, no. He recognized the reality of the fact that I am as good as dead man. And he also realized the fact that my wife is no better. She is 90 years old, there's nothing is going to come out of her. That means he was humble enough to accept the reality. This is another aspect of faith. Very important, okay? These things I'm saying, this will be real to our life. In our faith, should never close the eyes to the reality. What was the reality in Abraham's case? He's 100 years old, he's as good as dead. One leg is means one leg is already where? In the grave. One leg is already in the grave. He realized, yes, true. One leg is already in the grave. I am realizing the facts. See, one thing we need to realize is that when God, He says that He will work through you. If you have a weakness, if I have a weakness, I recognize that. I am not as educated, or maybe I am not as sharp as somebody. Yes, I realize that. I accept that. That is humility. You know what? People are not want to be humble. Even when they don't have something, they put up a mask to show that they have everything. I am also not so bad, you know. You want to, okay, I am not able to speak as English as good as others. Humble, right? That is humility, where you accept our weaknesses before God and say, yes, God, I am 100 years old. My wife is 90 years old. We cannot generate this. Yes, I understand that. So, faith is humble. Right? It accepts the reality of the situation. This we see in people in in the old when God gave the promises. In situations where people were not able to do that, they were given strength. Out of their weaknesses were made strong. You read in Hebrews chapter 11. They realized that we were weak. Yet, they understood that God is going to give us. So this is a mistake that Israelites, the 10 spies, made when they went to. Yes. They were seeing that they were giants, we were like this. Yes. But they did not realize that they had a God who is much bigger. Right? The reality of their situation should be equated with the power of God. Then only our humility will help us, right? It is not a hopeless humility, but it is accepting of reality against the might and power of God, right? Okay. Then, verse 21, we see he was fully persuaded, verse 21.
Is fully convinced
No.
that what he had promised he was also able to perform.
This is full confidence. He was fully persuaded that what God has said, he is able to perform. That means he has got the ability. Now, if a person, we are in deep debt, for example, hundreds of crores of rupees we are in debt. We need a savior, but he should have two qualities. Essential qualities. Tell me what are they? He should be rich. He should be rich. That means he should be able to help. Then, second quality? Able people need not be willing. Right? This is a problem. Some close friend of yours want to help you. I'm willing, but he doesn't have money. But very rich man, billionaire, is very rich, but he is not willing. What do they use? Both these people are useless. Right? This friend of yours who is very kind man, he is useless. This rich man is also useless. Why? This fellow is willing but not able. That fellow is able but not willing. We need what? Able and willing. And Abraham found in God a God who promised. That means, and he is able to fulfill the promise. Amazing, right? He promised a man who did not have any children, said, you will have children. That is so nice. Very good man. You have told me that you have children. But what is the use of saying, don't worry brother, you will have hundreds of children. What is the use? You are not able to give me children. What is the use of blessing me like that? Many people bless people. You will let us be very prosperous. Though you bless people like that, what is the use? You should be willing. He found God. God promised him. He did not ask for a promise. Right? God promised him, I will give you children. That means, and then he was able to perform. So that means his confidence. He had confidence in a God who is able and willing. In fact, I want to tell you, Jesus Christ was both willing and able. This is why our Savior is very unique. Right? Very unique in the sense that he is able. Nobody is able. Right? Many people will be willing, but nobody is able to save us. Here is that man, God, who is able and willing to save us. So we see these qualities: hopeful faith, humble faith, strong faith, obedient faith, confident faith, submissive faith, unwavering faith, observant faith. You see, so many qualities of this faith that Abraham had. So this is how we see the analysis of Abraham's faith, how that this illustration of the faith of Abraham is so precious. And what is the outcome of his faith? That's what we see next. Right? The next verse. Therefore, it was imputed for him. That means, this faith that Abraham showed it was counted, it was accounted, it was reckoned, it was imputed. It is written against his name as righteousness. What is righteousness? Being right with. Today, if you go into the world, people are trying their best to get right with God. This is what they are looking to get the righteousness of God, to get right with God. By their works, by their efforts. While we were at Allahabad, early morning we were going somewhere. 4 o'clock in that chill, husband and wife, our neighbor, going in the scooter to go have a good thing. We are wondering, we don't get up the chat time to pray or anything. These 2 people, early morning, go in the scooter. To go, they were professors in university. Doing their best to get right with God. And friends, this through this only mistake can anyone do. Here, therefore, it says, it was imputed to him for righteousness. That means God counted him as a righteous man, a good man. Not because of what he did, because he believed in the one who will justify the ungodly. He knew that he was not a good man. He knew that he had his failures. He knew that there were times in his life he was foolish. He knew that he had taken shortcuts. But he also knew the fact that God, I just believe. Right? It is not anything that I did, but what he did. And he looked forward to that day, one day, that all his sins will be carried away. John chapter 8 talks about that. Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he was glad, for he found it. He has seen. He didn't know the name Jesus, but he knew that one day God is going to take away all my sins. And then he looked forward to that day. Till that time, I'm looking forward. And he believed in God, he will fulfill his promise. Somehow he will fulfill. I don't know how. But somehow he is going to fulfill his promise. And he looked forward to that day. He knew that his sins were still there. But he knew that one day that sins will be taken away. Till the time, John the Baptist came and said, behold, the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the whole world. Included that of Abraham. Right? That sin of the whole world included that of me and you and everyone else. All the sins were taken away. So therefore, that faith was imputed, counted to him as righteousness. And he was called righteous man. Right? Okay, so this is the result of his faith. Now, Paul goes on to say about the application, right? So what? Okay, Abraham was called a righteous man. How about me? See, whenever the New Testament writers talks about an Old Testament scenario, they will not just say that, okay, this happened and this happened. They always bring in a practical application for us, right? For example, let's take a couple of verses and see. Romans 15, verse, same book, Romans 15 and verse 4. Whatever things that were written before
were written for our learning, that we through the patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
These things were written so that we through
Patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
It's a practical application for us today. So what has been written is for us too. That means this is how we apply. One of the verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 is talking about all the things that happened in the time of Moses, right? And how that they were rebellious and they were adulterous and all those kind of things. And finally he says in verse 11. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 11.
Now these things happened to them, for example, but they were written on our instruction, on whom the end of the ages has come.
These things that happened hundreds of years back Why it is written now? For our instruction, for me. It is written for me. That means for us who are waiting for the end of this world, this is an admonition, exhortation for you and for me. That means Paul is trying to bring look and see, look, this is what has happened. That you should not be like that. You should not be covetous. You should not be idolaters. You should not be adulterers. Right? Because that happened to them, you should not have. Psalm 78, he's talking about he's telling about all the rehearsing actually. Psalm 78 is a rehearsal of Asaph, of what happened in the time of his faith. Right? And why it is written was that. Psalm 78.
So he established the testimony in Jacob, appointed the law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should make them known to their children, that the generation to come might know that the children would be born.
See? They are in this psalm, it's a repetition starting from the time of history where they were saved from Egypt, from all the things that happened, how that they didn't have water came, how they didn't have food when they came, how the enemies came to attack them, how God helped them. All this history was rehearsed for what purpose? That the children may know that this God is the God of heaven and earth. Right? History is written for us so that these things are a reality for us. So our children, right, will know. 2 books were written exclusively for those people who came back from exile. First Chronicles, Second Chronicles. Actually, this is a kind of repetition. But if you look, they are mainly written about the kings of Israel and the recording of all the things from a perspective for a guy who is a son or a grandson who never saw the sea parting, who never saw manna, who never saw water coming out of the rock, who never saw the enemy being defeated. That means they will realize that God had worked in history, therefore this is applicable for you. So Paul in this chapter, in this next few verses, now what is he saying in verse 24? Now it was not written for his sake alone that it was imputed to him, but for us also, to whom it shall be imputed. That means he is saying it is not only about Abraham, but also about you and about me. Why? Because if you believe, you also will be counted as righteous. This faith, the same faith that Abraham had, will also be counted to you as righteousness if you are willing to. Who? Same God who is able to create and who is able to bring back dead man to life. And we have already demonstrated that. How? That's what he is saying here. He says that he is, but for us also to whom it shall be imputed, if we believe on him that raised up Jesus our Lord from the dead. Just like Abraham believed on a God who was able to bring back his dead son back to life. That means he believed in the God of resurrection. Today we here demonstrated that we believe that God raised Jesus from the dead. Right? Who was killed for what purpose? Not for his sins. Yeah, that's what is written here. Who was delivered for our offenses. This is one of the basic creeds of the New Testament. Right? He was delivered for our offenses, our sins, our shortcomings, our transgressions. Right? God delivered him for our transgressions. But raised again for our justification. Right? It's very important. Jesus Christ, if his life had ended on the cross and he was buried like the 2 people, robbers on both sides, what will the word say about Jesus? And he came, did some miracles. They say that he raised the dead, but he could not rise it. Some people said, you are the Son of God, you save yourself, save others. You do not say anything. Like a criminal, he died there. These mad people, they are now saying they are followers. It's like any other religion. People would have scoffed at the life of Jesus. But you see that Jesus rose again from the dead. His resurrection was a great proclamation of the fact that he was delivered for our offense, not his. Usually, when a man is crucified, what do people say? He got what he deserved. Yes, the cursed man. Otherwise, this would not have happened. He might have done something drastically wrong. That is why he is suffering this fate. Fate. This is the fate. This is karma. All the people will say. This man claimed he is God, Son of God. Now he is hanging helplessly there. Now, Son of God. What Son of God? And then we see that God raised him. And proclaiming of the fact that in God's books, in God's court, right, he is vindicated. God said, it is not for Jesus' sake, it is for your sake. It is for your sake. I brought him back to life with the proof that it is for your sake. And also, another important fact is that he was raised again for our justification. What is justification? Yes. We know in the Old Testament, so there is going to be a read for you, a commentary that is written by a man called Charles Hodge. He is a very leading commentator. People like Charles Spurgeon often refer to him in the 19th century, 1835. Great scholar. He had read this piece in his commentary. Let me read for him. Charles Hodge. With a dead Savior, a Savior over whom death had triumphed and held captive, our justification had been forever immortal. Understood? The dead man, no matter how big a claim he has made, if he had dead and gone like others, our justification would have been impossible. As it was necessary that the high priest, so going to the Old Testament right now, high priest of the Old Testament in the old economy should not only slay the victim at the altar, right? On the outer court, on the altar, what does the high priest do? He bring the animal and cut it, right? But carry the blood into the most holy place. You know about the great day of atonement, where he is killing the lamb upon the altar, and what he is taking, the blood is taken into the Holy of Holies and sprinkle it upon the mercy seat. So it was necessary not only that our great high priest should suffer in the outer court, suffer on the cross, right? But that he should pass into heaven to present his righteousness before God for all justification. Right? In the Old Testament, lamb is different, high priest is different. Right? On the New Testament, who is the lamb? Who is the high priest? Right? So says Charles Hodge. So, he was delivered up for offences, but he was raised again for our justification. Now today we celebrate this resurrection. Why? Because he was raised again for what? For our justification. That means to make us righteous before God. That God could give his righteousness to us. He presented his righteousness to God so that God could give his righteousness to us. Right? This is amazing. We see the content of justification, that we have a righteousness in God. We need not fear about God being a righteous judge. Why? Because today we are clothed with whose righteousness? Christ's righteousness. Even God cannot find a fault with us. Why? Because his righteousness is perfect. That dress that these people wore and the king came to see, king also could not find any fault with that. Why? His dress. Because his dress. How can he find fault with his dress? Because, you see there's something wrong, sir. You gave this dress. I gave? Okay. No one can find fault with God's dress. The righteousness that God is giving to a sinner today is whose dress? That is why nobody in heaven can stop a person who is made righteous by the precious blood of Christ, because it's He who has given this dress to us. So when you wear this dress and come before God, nobody can stop you. Why? Because it is sparkling white. Wonderful, perfect dress. Not because of I am a faulty man. I have a lot of failures. I have doubts. But here I come before you, Lord, with the trust that you have given. Therefore, I am accepted. Isn't that great confidence? If our salvation is dependent upon our good works, right? Our perfectness, who can come confidently? Okay, next call. Simon, sir, come to the presence of God. How we will come? Like this Mika book. Because why? Because we know that I know a lot of things I don't know. I have forgotten. He has got in his book. Right? What I have forgotten, he has got in his book. How I can come confidently? Nobody can come. The only way to come into the cross is put on the trust that He has given us. Now we can come. Not on our righteousness, but on the righteousness that He has given. At that time we can come confidently. How we will come now? Now it is not about me. It's about my friends. This is the essence of Christianity. Essence of Christianity. It's not about me. So if you are living, you live for yourself. If you are thinking, you think for yourself. You think about short term, no. You think about God. So this is seek through all areas of our life. That I stand here not because of what I have done, because of what He has done, what He has given me. That is why I am sacrificed. Right? Hebrews 10:40 should be always written across our shirt here. Why? Because by one sacrifice, He has perfected forever those who are being faithful. That means we will be always recognizing the fact that He has made me holy. How? By His sacrifice. Therefore, I ever live with that cross in front of me. Right? We sing the song, no? Cross before me, the world behind me. Today, what is this? Cross is behind us. All the time, world is in front of us. How to become a big man in this world? This is what is a tragedy of today's Christianity. Throw the world back. Bring before us the cross of Christian life. Perfect. Wonderful.